today, and we're obviously very excited to be here because here he comes in the Hobbyking Yak 52. The Yak 52 is a Russian trainer. It was used to train both sport and military pilots over in Russia, and it was first seen in the Western world back in the 70s at the aerobatic competitions. Now I'm just going to start the display for you with a bit more gentle stuff, just showing you some of the things the Yak can do, but he's going to build up to the middle of that display to show you something which is a bit of a wow factor to it. And back in the 70s when those pilots first went to the display competitions and those Russian guys come in and done this, everybody was amazed at what they'd done. Okay, so Nigel's just turned out, done a wing over, and he's going to bring the aircraft back into the field. Lovely head-on shot there for you as he pulls it up into a quarter clover. As I said, Nigel's been flying around these parts now since 1985, learned to use and he's been displaying this particular aircraft now for around 14 years. Just pull the aircraft up into a loop. Again, that's something that always amazes me, to be sitting in the aircraft looking through my cockpit and seeing the ground beneath me. You feel your shoulders pulling against the straps and your feet trying to come off the pedals. You're very glad you've got straps to hold you firmly in place. Just doing a half Cuban there, so he's done the loop again, but this time rolls the aircraft upright and brings it down the display line. And he's going to pull up into a stall turn. Now if you watch the Yak stall turn compared to the pits, the Yak turns to the right instead of the left, the way those pits does, and that's all to do with the way the propeller turns. The propeller on the Yak, if you like, turns the wrong way to most aircraft. Okay, so position of what's called the humped pump. So he pushes the aircraft up to the vertical again, and he pushes himself right over the top with that hump bump and comes back down the other side. If you want to know what that feels like, if you get to the top of that hump and you push over there, you find your stomach just rises up a bit with the G. Taking the aircraft back down to the display line, rolling it round to bring it back in again. Now the Yak 52, I said, was a Russian aircraft. It's a radial engine there, 360 horsepower, 9-cylinder radial engine. That's why you get that lovely roar to it. And we don't need keys to fly the Yak, so no key to start it. It all starts on the pneumatic system. So one of the first checks we have to do when we get in the aircraft is check that we've got plenty of air. Otherwise, one, we wouldn't start the aircraft, but we also wouldn't be able to work the brakes and flaps or the undercarriage. And Nigel's just demonstrated a nice barrel roll for us there. It's an all-metal aircraft, apart from the flying surfaces which are fabric covered, and that was done to keep the weight of the aircraft down. Now the Yak 52 is obviously a tandem aircraft. Your instructor would sit behind you, the student would sit in the front. And this aircraft came after the Yak 50s, which were the single-seat tail dragger version. Okay, Nigel's doing what he loves best, flying inverted. I don't see the appeal of that myself. He's also demonstrating a slow roll there for you. It's a competition manoeuvre. So instead of rolling around really quickly, which is fairly easy to do, he's taking a bit more control of it and just rolling nice and slowly round. Okay, he's going to do a wing over at the end of the display line. He's going to bring it back in and show you one of those stall turns again, up nice and close. And this time, if he remembers, he'll stick a quarter turn in there as well.
Don't need to be scared.
You see he's running back in on the display line, building up his speed. When he gets to the centre, pulls the aircraft up to the vertical, puts in a quarter turn, and he's bleeding off. And to stop the aircraft stalling, kicks in a boot full of right rudder, back down again to build up that speed, and he finishes this manoeuvre off with a 360 degrees turn at the bottom. What does that manoeuvre feel like? Well, if you've ever been on the Pepsi Max up at Blackpool and you go down that big first drop when you're hanging there and you find yourself plummeting down, that's pretty much what a stall turn feels like. Okay, it's completely circle now. Take the aircraft down to the 2-3 end of the runway to turn round, And now he's going to show you something called a Lonchovac. Now this was this manoeuvre that I talked about at the beginning. When the Russians came and done it, everybody wondered, how on earth did they do that? Now Lonchovac, you might say that's a bit of a strange name. Well, if you take that word, translate that Russian word into English, you get headache or hangover. And the Russians named this manoeuvre Lonchovac because they felt it resembled a drunk on his way home from the pub on a Friday evening. A bit strange, see what I mean? Nigel's going to take the aircraft up to the vertical and watch what happens. There you go, that's the Lonchovac. Nigel takes it up there, he puts all the controls in, sets the aircraft pitching, yawing and spinning all at the same time. And the only way to stop those gyroscopic forces is to do exactly what he did there, and that's to throttle back on the aircraft. Now, I can't tell you what one of those feels like because I haven't been brave enough to sit through one of those, but Nigel tells me it recovers at the same point every time, and you're just going to have to take his word for it. If you've got a camera, this is a good opportunity to get a good shot, because Nigel's positioning now to use the B axis on the display line. He's going to run heading on to you, and just at the last minute, he pulls it up into a quarter clover. Here he goes. I think that's my favourite manoeuvre of the display. He always looks very impressive. The Russians were quite cute when they teaching their people to fly. If you think back to the days of the Cold War, they didn't want their pilots defecting to the west. So, the Yak only has got a fuel range of around about 2 hours 20, 2 hours 30. And what the Russians did, they made sure that their airfields were further inland than that flying time. So once they'd taught people how to fly, they couldn't defect to the west. Okay, now just going to do an avalanche for us now. That's a loop with a flicking at the top. So as you watch this, he gets to the top, flicks it round, and comes back down to the other side. If this sky wasn't so white with a little blue to it, you might have actually seen that he'd drawn a heart in the sky there. Now that manoeuvre always looks quite smooth and very nice to do. Let me tell you, if you're sitting in the back there, what you find happens is your head's hitting the cockpit all the way around. Okay, Nigel's now going to do something else for us. As well as flying that aeroplane, he's going to talk to you from the cockpit. Okay? You might wonder how he can do that. That's one of the things with display pilots. They're not just up there having a good time. He's got to have lots of spare knowledge, safety stuff in reserve, if you like. So he's going to talk to you now from the cockpit. And for those of you to remember in true generation style, that's all there is to it. Okay, Nigel's gone back out to the end of the display line just to turn it back round and come in for us again. What he does now towards the end of his display, he gives you photographers a chance. So he brings it down nice and low and does a series of flypasts for you. So if you have got your cameras, it's a good chance there to catch a photograph of the Yak. Look, but being Nigel, he just has to go upside down again. He's just demonstrated very nicely there a competition manoeuvre for you. It's called a 4-point hesitation roll. Instead of rolling the aircraft in one smooth movement, he stops it at each 90 degree of the circle. And again, down here, it looks quite smooth. But again, if you're in that cockpit, you find yourself banging your head all the way around. That's why we wear those funny things on our heads. Okay, here he comes down now, low, for an inverted fly pass. But that's a good chance to show off our logos there. You can see the Hobbyking sponsorship logos, which have been going around air shows around the country this year, and we've been able to promote you wherever we go. He's going to come back down now, probably do a couple more of those for you. If you've got your cameras, please take a nice photograph for him. If you haven't got a camera, you might notice that the Yak's got nice big windows on the cockpit there, and Nigel can actually see very clearly down here. So if you haven't got your camera, give him a wave, and if you're lucky, he'll wave back.
the wave, trying to in the wave to see that
Okay, Nigel loves to do this to me. He gives me a routine, I've got it on my leg, I'll tell you what he's going to do next, and he likes to surprise you. Just because at Elmsett here we're lucky enough to have a dog leg, he's made use of that, so just put a couple of extra manoeuvres in it. Now he's doing what you should be doing, giving you a nice topside pass there. As I said, we've been very pleased this year to be able to be flying with Hobbyking on Hobbyking. It's been great to promote the air shows that we've gone to, and it's more special for us to be here at our home airfield at Hobbyking event. If you look closely at the yak, you might actually see the undercarriage protrusion from the front edge of the wing. That's because on the Yak 52 it doesn't actually retract fully. It's partially semi-retracted. So in the event of emergency it was able to land. It landed with his wheels up like that, but it would protect the engine. He's actually told us what he's going to do now. If you notice, he's actually lowered the gear on the Yak. He's going to do one of those dirty passes again. He comes in nice and slow, loud and noisy, and it gives you a chance to see the Yak slow and up close. So here he comes, he's lining up on the runway, looks like he's going to land. He's told me he's going to fly through. It's actually got quite long legs to it, and that's so we get the clearance on the prop. If you look at the Yak when it's stopped, it has got a very large propeller top. You need those legs. Okay, just going to tip drop the Yak right now, and he's going to land on runway 05. If you like what you've seen today, we do have a website, yakdisplay.com. Please go on and have a look. We've got lots of pictures on there. We'll be quite happy to put your pictures on if you've got any good ones for us today. We've also got some videos shot from inside the cockpit, so it gives you a feel again what some of those manoeuvres are like. So you can say Nigel's called finals now, and he's bringing the Yak 52 in. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's been absolutely lovely to be here today. Home airfield, home of Hobbyking and home of Yak Display. Thank you for listening, hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you, Debbie. And thank you, Nigel. And there he is, moving into the taxi racks there.
Give him a wave as he goes past.
Yeah, give him a wave.